Hello everyone and welcome to the matchup you've all been waiting for. It is the finals of the Julius Bar Generation Cup and it is Alireza Firouzja versus Magnus Carlsen. Now I always like to remind people that when we're covering this event that this is the final event, not the grand final. So there is another final that comes after this one and whoever loses the final can still bounce back and face off against the winner of the final in the grand final. It's confusing, but I've also learned that some other sports use this as well. Now let's check it out. We're only going to show one of the three games. I thought this one was absolute madness. You guys will enjoy this one. So many variations. I mean, it's just as the title suggests. If if you play really well, you should crush your opponent, but you have to find some really disgusting engine lines. So I'm not gonna tell you what happened in the actual matchup. We're gonna discuss this after we check out the game. So Alireza has the white pieces, and he opens with e4. Magnus, of course, we all know what he replies with. Pawn to c5. He goes for the Sicilian defense. Knight f3, e6, and now pawn to d4. The open Sicilian. Captures, and now knight to c6. That was a knight captures on d4. If anyone is, just listening, not watching by any chance. Knight to c3, and now queen to c7. Going for the Bastrico variation of the Taimanov Sicilian. Bishop to e3, and now pawn to a6. We have queen to f3, knight to f6, and now queenside castles. And this has all been played before, nothing new here, like 200 games in the database, only in top tier tournaments. Knight to e5, attacking the queen, and queen to g3. Aligning nicely with the black queen here, and usually b5 is the move here. It's pretty much exclusively played here. Sometimes, okay, you do have a knight f coming to g4, to g4, but Magnus plays pawn to h5, and this was never played in top tier tournaments. There are like 5 games from lower rated tournaments where this was attempted, but you will see just how much poison there is to this move. Now, if you really want to punish black, if you really know your stuff, and if you really know how to punish this move by heart, and chances are you a top grandmaster such as Alireza might not know this, as you really don't expect someone to play it against you, but you should play pawn to f4. This is one of the lines that is really strong against pawn to h5. Point being that now after the knight moves and attacks the bishop, you will play pawn to e5, attack the other knight. And now after knight captures, queen captures, and the other knight comes to g4 to attack the queen, you will play queen to f3. Again, you are stopping b5 as the rook on a8 would hang. So pawn to d5, and now you kick away the knight. Now, of course, black does not have to react to this, because if captures, your queen will hang and also the rook. So black will just move the bishop d7. You will continue development. Now the knight has to move as the rooks are defending each other. So knight h6, and now queen captures on h5, and it's a free pawn. It's a free pawn. It's a better position for white, and that's how you should play against this. But Alireza started thinking here, and he played the second strongest move recommended by the engine, and a much cooler one. He played knight d to b5. He attacked the black queen and sacrificed his knight. Now, why did he do this? Well, because the black queen is tied to the defense of the e5 knight, so the black queen will have to retreat to the b8 square. So this is what happened. A captures on b5, knight captures. Now the queen has to go to b8 to keep defending the knight, and now Alireza played bishop to b6 with the terrible threat of not knight to c7 check, but bishop to c7, and this will trap the black queen. Here, Magnus played knight captures on e4. He attacked Alireza's queen, and Alireza played queen to e3. And now, Magnus's knight is hanging, and also Magnus's queen could very easily be trapped. But what does Magnus play? Magnus plays rook captures on a2. Now, what this does is two things. First, it gives the black queen the a8 square to escape if you try to trap it with bishop to c7. But even better if you actually play bishop to c7, which now makes no point. Okay, you could maybe play to attack the queen and the knight here. Rook a1 is checkmate, as the knight on e4 also covers the escape square for the king. So you have to be very careful here. So after rook captures on a2, Alireza played king to b1. It is the absolute best move. And now we have rook to a4. And here with this rook to a4 move, Alireza is completely winning here. But you have to find the correct set of moves. Knight to c7 check was played, and here the engine actually says the game is so lost for Magnus that he should just give up his queen. But the position is so complicated that Magnus doesn't do this. I'm just going to show you what you sort of should play. Queen captures, bishop captures, now knight to g4. You go after the f2 square, so you're going to win some more material. After the queen moves to attack the rook here, you go rook to b4. You attack the queen, and once the queen moves, now you play rook to d4 even. You attack the queen and the rook on d1, and now after the queen moves, let's say queen to f3, this is pretty much the last thing you can do. Rook captures, queen captures, and now knight captures on f2 to attack the queen and the rook. The queen will move to a nice centralized square, and now knight captures on h1. So not great, and the bishops are not developed, nor the rook, so white is still much better here, but maybe black will be able to play if white plays a couple of silly moves and black gets to develop. But Magnus doesn't even play the strongest move recommended by the engine, which is giving up the queen. Magnus plays king to e7, and now Alireza's position is completely winning, but you have to find, well, it's very difficult what you have to find, so feel free to pause the video here and win the game for Alireza while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finding this incredibly weird idea. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is queen to b3. This is the move that wins the game and the only move that wins the game. So you attack the rook here, you invite knight captures on f2, but the problem is after knight captures on f2 and queen captures on a4, knight captures on d1. Now the point of it all is knight to b5. And now there is no move black can make to stop bishop to c7. The pawns and the bishop here are really poorly placed. There's no move you could play to block bishop to c7. The queen controls the a file completely. The knight and bishop work really well, and the bishop to c7 on the next move will win the black queen. So that's pretty much it. However, Magnus was able to trick Alireza. After king to e7, Alireza played rook to d4. He defended, now he forces a rook trade, and this allows Magnus to really come back into the game. Rook captures on d4, queen captures on d4, and now pawn to f6. This was the move that Magnus needed to bounce back. He wants to give back material. The knight will be excellently centralized here. The d5 is coming, then the king is coming to f7, then the bishops can be developed, and his position will come alive. So queen captures on e4. Alireza has to take material. There's nothing better. d5. Now queen back to e1 and king to f7. Now the bishop can come into the game. f4 attacking the knight, but Magnus does not move the knight. It would be a poor choice of moves if you actually did something with the knight. Bishop to d6 is best. Develop while attacking. So knight to b5 attacks the bishop, but now just knight to c6. We have pawn to g3 to defend the f4 pawn, and now bishop to d7. Magnus just nicely continues developing, and now Magnus's pieces are pretty much developed. You still need to get the rook into the game, but one thing you can realize is that Magnus is now up a pawn, and that's a problem. And Alireza is really, really down on time by a lot. So queen to d2 by Alireza, and now pawn to h4. We have bishop to g2, now just h captures on g3, h captures, rook captures on h1, bishop captures, and bishop to b4. Magnus is very happy trading as many pieces as possible. Queen to h2, and now knight to e7. We have knight to d4 now, and queen to d6, just going after the bishop here. So queen to h5 with check, king to f8, and now bishop to d8. The problem is if you go queen to h8, then knight to g8 blocks check, and there is no good continuation. So bishop to c5 now attacks the knight. Queen to h8 check, knight to g8, and now knight to b3. So now Alireza has to try and defend this, being down a pawn. We have bishop to b6, and now bishop captures on b6. Magnus, again, happily trading more pieces. We have pawn to f5. Alireza trying to create some sort of a breakthrough here in order to attack the black king. Of course, if pawn captures, then the bishop captures, then you might be able to do something. But Magnus just plays queen g1 check, king to a2, and now queen captures on g3, winning yet another pawn. And now capturing here doesn't really do all that much because bishop captures, defends the pawn, defends the knight, and everything is perfectly fine. So Alireza goes knight c5. He goes after the bishop, but now just queen to d6. You have to keep d6 pawn defended, and that's pretty much all there is to it. You are up 2 pawns. So, few more moves and you should be able to prove your advantage. Pawn captures on F6, on E6, bishop captures, now knight back to D3. All trades favor Magnus, so Alireza has no option but to go back. We have bishop to F5 and now queen to H5. We have knight to E7 now, queen back to H8 with check, king to F7 and queen to H5 with check. We have bishop to G6 and now queen back to E2, queen to A6 with check, we have king to B1, and now more trades are coming. Bishop captures on D3, C captures, and now queen to E6, just offering further trades. So that's basically the idea here. Magnus is up 2 pawns, and he's constantly offering more trades in order to improve his position and maximize his advantage. So here we have queen to H5 check, G6, queen to H7 check, king to E8, and now bishop to F3. So of course Alireza will check that black king as much as possible before finally throwing in the towel. King to D7, we have bishop to D1, and now queen to E1. You have to of course defend. King to C1, queen to E3 check, we have king to C2, and now pawn to G5. Now, of course, the simplest way to win is to just push those pawns to victory. We have queen to H8, and now pawn to F5. We have queen to B8 going after the pawn here, pawn to B6. The queen nicely defends it. Now comes king to C3, and queen to C5 with check. King goes back to D2. Now comes queen to B4 with check, king to C2, and now pawn to G4. Now the queen is excellently placed here, defending the king side, also putting pressure on the white king. Not much you can do here with white. We have king to B1 by Alireza, now comes queen to D4, the final centralizing move before you continue pushing. King to A2, and now even knight to C6. Maybe you can even checkmate the white king. Queen B7 check, we have king to D6, and now queen to H7. Knight to B4 with check, king to A3, knight captures on D3, wins another pawn. Queen to H6 with check, king to E5, and now queen to H2 with check. We have king to E4. Magnus not afraid to come deeper into the position as he has all of these pawns defending his king. Queen to G2 check. We have king F4. Queen to D2 with check, and now queen to E3. We have queen to H2 check, and he was in this position on move 65 upon playing queen to H2 check that Alireza Firouzja resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Once king to G5 is played, there are no more checks, and it's it's impossible to even find a move for white. You could maybe play queen D6 to threaten some checks, although there really aren't any. Like you could maybe threaten queen to D8 check, but then just queen to C5 check forces a queen trade, and again now you have completely winning position, 4 pawns to 1. And if you try something like king A2 to avoid any nasty discoveries that were coming as the king was on A3, then you can even deliver checkmate knight before check, king to B1, queen to D3 check, and now you either pick up the bishop, or if king defends, knight to A2 with a beautiful checkmate. Yeah, after queen to H2 check that Alireza played, also he resigned the game, and this was game 2, and Magnus won it. Now, what happened in the rest of the match, I will now say it, so if you don't want to know, don't watch anymore. Magnus won the first game. This one Alireza could have won had he found that queen to B3 move, but Magnus also won it, and in game 3, Magnus was also victorious. So he takes down Alireza with a result of 3-0, but like I said, this is only the final. We still have the grand final. We'll see if Alireza will be able to, claw his way out from the loser's bracket and join Magnus in the grand final, or will it be someone else? So yeah, I mean, a really crazy game where Magnus employed this H5 idea that does not work and should not and will never be played like in classical chess. Also, maybe it's one of the reasons why Magnus is so much against classical chess. You could never play this move, in classical chess, but in lower time format, this isn't really even that fast. I mean, it's 10+2, so players of this caliber have time to calculate, but it was not enough time to calculate everything that you should have calculated here. Like Alireza went for this very attractive line, and he even did everything he could. But here, after this king to e7 move was played, we've shown. You should have given up the queen, but if you find queen to b3, then it's game over. Like we said, once you reach this position, just knight b5, and there's nothing you can do to stop this move. I mean, bishop to c7, such a spectacular idea. But okay. I mean, so many cool lines. Magnus bluffs his way and takes down, a former 2800 player, Alireza Firouzja. Brilliant stuff. And yeah, he wins the match 3-0. So we'll see who shall face Magnus in the grand final. That's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank deteriora.com, India Moon. India is the best. Crazy Dave and Crazier Dave for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon. Continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.